Who would have imagined that this girl born out of wedlock, who her mom tried to abort 3 times, but did not abort, is this person sitting here right in front of Mr. Jex Africa? So I have a principle that whatever is going to have my name on it has to be so good, so excellently done that anywhere in the world, anybody will say it, they will make reference that who did this. I know that for us to go global, we have to break that African mentality of because I'm the founder of the business, I must be the one in charge of doing everything or making the major decisions. I think that's also where a lot of African founders have an issue. They don't like to employ people who know more than them. But your business won't scale and grow globally if you're the one who knows everything.
Hello, Africa. Welcome to another episode of CEOs Unscripted. This episode promises to be very insightful. The woman with me here leads a property development and design company, a renowned one at that in West Africa. She's into real estate, interior design, architecture, leadership development, public speaking, team building, and business consulting. Please welcome with me the woman, the myth, the legend, Funto Ibuoye.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you
Mr. Jex Africa.
Thank you very much for coming. My pen and paper is ready mentally for this session. I've been very excited about this session because I know a bit of the story. I know that many Africans who want to learn about bootstrapping, who want to learn about growing an organization, you know, like you're the right person, you're the go-to person. So let me give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and your business. Please go ahead.
I love it. Okay, so my name is Funto Ibuoye and I run 528, which like you said is a property development and design firm here in West Africa. But yes, we're a global organization because very soon we'll be building or having landmarks in, we're currently operating in Lagos and Abuja, but very soon we'll be operating in New York and Dubai.
Amazing.
Right, so we've been in business for 7 years and counting.
Wow.
And we initially started as an interior design firm, but we morphed into a property development organization recently. So yes, we do new builds, constructions, renovation, and interior design. And the journey has really been, it's been amazing. Yeah.
It's been amazing. All right. So let's go back to the beginning. How did you come about the name 528? And why interior decor?
I love it so much because everyone asks me how I got 528. It sounds like a tech name. Right. Okay, so 528, I remember I initially wanted to register the company as Beautified Living Interiors. But I remember sending the name to CAC and they rejected it, that it wasn't available. Wow. And at that time, I was about to give birth to my first child. Wow. So I remember the day I had my first child, my husband was with me, right? And when the baby came out, the matron said 5:28 p.m., you know, because they always announce the time your child comes out, right? So it was 5:28 p.m. So it was my husband who actually, days later, maybe 2 days later, my husband actually said, oh, what do I think that we can actually, you know, use 528 as the name of the business. I'm like, wow. Okay. So we put it up, sent it to CAC, and it got approved. And that's how the name came about. So it was the time that I gave it to my first son.
So if you gave birth to him at 6:54,
maybe that's
right.
But I think 528 is actually perfect because, so my husband's birthday is 5th of August, that's 5, and my birthday is 28th of March, so 5 and 28, you know? Really.
Too many coincidences. So
really.
Why did you start with interior?
Why did I start with interiors? So interestingly, if you had asked me maybe 10 years before I started business, if I was ever going to do interior, but if I was ever even going to do business, I would have said no. When I was in school, my dream, my goal was really to be the first female president of ICANN. Wow. I read accounting in school and I'm a chartered accountant, right? So my goal in life or my ambition then was to be the first female president of ICANN, right? And along the line, I remember it was when we were in final year. I went to Covenant University. When we were in final year, I remember Tara Durotori came to our school, and you know, that was my first time meeting her. And you know, we had this conference. I can't really remember, but I remember that I was so drawn to her, seeing this woman who is running this kind of business? Like, where has she been? So a woman can do this, you know. So I was so inspired. I literally followed her. And I remember then that House of Tara, that's business, you know, they were giving scholarships for makeup artists, right? So I applied for the scholarship and I really, really hoped to get it, but I didn't get it. But that stirred something in me, right? I shared that to say I was never thinking of going into business, but Tara drew to him, you know, kind of put that seed of business in me. Then how did I go into interior design? So I remember after leaving school, doing my NYC, I got a job, you know, with a tech firm, you know, as the financial accountant. And it was so good because I remember then, this was 2011, 2012, you know, I was the financial accountant of this tech company. And all, I remember then the directors of the company, that's the owners of the company, they were in their late 20s. So everybody in the company was really young, right? And I was the only financial accountant. I remember then bank marketers would come to the office to ask for the accountant or the person in charge of the account department, and the secretary would send them to me. And they'll just see me, this small girl, sitting behind the desk. I'm like, I remember one particular experience where one of the marketers actually said, no, I'm here to see your boss. I'm like, there's no boss here. I'm one. Boss. You know, but so I was really living large. I mean, I had a carnet driver attached to my department. You know, I was making 6 figures actually, you know, and I was in parents, I was still staying with my parents, you know, so I was really living large. But after working for like 2 years, I got really dissatisfied. I got really bored. You know, I got to that point where even though my job was good, my colleagues were great. I remember then every time it was Sunday evening, I used to feel so bad that, oh my God, I'm going back to this work again on Monday morning. So I knew that there had to be more to my life than just resuming work, you know, going to count millions that I'm not seeing in my account. Like, what? There had to be more to my life. And I remember that, you know, after a while, I knew that I didn't know what I wanted to do next, but I knew I wanted to resign. I knew that I didn't want to do this anymore. So I remember, you know, actually, you know, having a meeting with my boss and telling him that I was going to resign. And he kept asking me, where are you going to? What are you going to do? I didn't have the answers, but I knew that this wasn't what I was going to, you know, what I wanted to do. So I resigned from the accounting job. I couldn't even tell anyone at home that I was resigning. I was staying with my mom. Then I could not use my mouth to tell her that I wanted to resign. I remember lying to her that I was taking a 2-week leave. Fuck. You know, literally, because it didn't make sense. Like, you have a good job, you have a car and a driver attached to you, you're making money. So why are you leaving? And back then, it was still the same story of there are no jobs in Nigeria. So you that you have a job, why are you, you know? But I just knew that this isn't what I wanted to do with my life. And, you know, within those, thankfully, somehow along the line, within those my fake 2 weeks leave, someone sends me a LinkedIn message saying that, that she recommended me for a role as a PA to the CEO of an interior design company, that would I be willing to go for the interview? So I'm like, okay, I'm not doing anything, let me go. What's even this? I did, as at that time.
Within the 2 weeks.
And at that time, I didn't even know there was anything called interior design.
Wow.
Like, I'd never come across it. I'd never thought about it. Like, what's this? So I had to Google what's interior design, all of that, prepare for the interview. So I remember going for the interview and stepping into the showroom of the interior design. And I literally went, wow. Like, I had never seen furniture, colors, everything looking so beautiful, well placed. Everything was just looking well. Like, it never occurred to me that there was something like this. And I went for the interview and I got the role. So that was my very first experience with interior design, working as the PA to the CEO of this interior design company, right? And I worked there for about 3 months. Before I moved on to join L'Oreal, right? So yes, that's my very first introduction into interior design.
So why did you decide to
start
do this
a
as
business?
A business?
So good. You know, so I remember during those 3 months, it was like a seed was sown in me, or maybe it was already inside me, and that's, you know, that opportunity to be so close, you know, brought it out. Because every time we had projects, I'm just like, wow, so you can turn this space into something beautiful. Like, you can take any space from absolutely rubbish and make it beautiful. So the idea of just turning things from nothing to something, you know, massive and something beautiful, you know, just really, it just really got to me, right? So after I left there, like I said, I went to L'Oreal. I worked at L'Oreal for 2 years until they had to shut down operations in Nigeria, and they wanted to move me to the Ghana branch. But at that time, I already got married, and my husband was not willing to go to Ghana. And then my husband is not going anywhere. I am not going, So here I was married. I think I was already pregnant with our first son, of course. And I remember so I had my baby, and here I was, no job. No money was coming in, nothing, and here I was taking care of a baby. So I knew that, of course, I had to be doing something with my life. Like, my life cannot just be about cleaning Pampers and packing baby.
I'm marking time.
I'm marking time. So I remember, I kept asking myself, okay, what are the things that I could do? Something happened. I remember it was a situation that happened that it was like a wake-up call for me. So my husband was going out one morning. I know you probably have heard the story. I was going out one morning, and I think I asked him for 1,000 naira to go make my hair. But the way he responded to me, I was just like, even him, he does not remember. But me, I remember. But the way he responded to me, I was like, wow. Me that I used to make my own money. I was earning 6 figures before I got married and all of that. But that, like I said, was like a wake-up call. It now made me to really start asking, like, okay, what can I do to start making my own money? I didn't want to be a burden to my husband, always having to ask him for money every time, So it was in that season that someone now sent me a flyer for an interior design training, right? And I didn't even have money. I didn't have 1,000 naira. And I think the training, I think it was 120,000 naira. And I didn't have 1,000 naira.
1,000 times 120.
Literally. So I remember just really praying and saying, I'm going to ask my husband for this money. And if my husband agrees to pay for it, then I'll know that, God really wants me to do this. I asked my husband, and he agreed to pay for it.
Wow.
So that's how my husband paid for my training into interior design, right? And that's how I remember this. I went for the training.
So you made up for the time you asked for that 1K?
Yes. And he's reaping the fruits right now. So I remember that. So I went for the training. Training was like for 3 months. And then after 3 months, we had like a 1-month internship. It was one of those days during the internship. I just took a picture of myself at a site that I was given to supervise. And I posted on Instagram that, hello everyone, I'm now an interior designer. If you need my services, holla at your girl. And that very evening I posted I got 2 clients, my very first clients, and they were both above ₦1 million.
Wow.
And that's how business started.
Yep. Amazing. In your career now, you've been doing interior design, now property management. I would like to know when you morphed from just interior decor design to property management.
So why we morphed? So we've been doing interior design since we started officially in 2016 November. 2016 November. It was in 2021 I started to feel like I had outgrown interior design. I started to feel like there had to be more than just, that place where you're just dissatisfied. Like, I'd done so much interior. As at 2021, we had done over 100 projects.
Wow.
So I started to feel like there has to be more than just designing spaces everywhere, So that dissatisfaction didn't leave, but I pressed in on it, and I remember that the vision that I received as I just pressed into that dissatisfaction was a picture of 5 towers of 28 floors each. So you remember our company name is 528. So 528 towers, So as I pressed in, I just kept seeing that image of 5 towers of 28 floors each, right? And, at that time, we're working with, at that time we had about 3 architects, different people that were working. So I remember telling one of the architects to just, this image that I'm seeing in my mind, help me to put it, help me to do a 3D design so that I can, see it physically. And I remember when he did the design and I saw it physically, like, it so resonated in my heart. I knew that this was like the next thing, right? So it's one thing for you to start a business, and it's another thing to know when to pivot, right? So I feel like that was a season of pivoting, like knowing that, okay, yes, you've conquered. I felt like I'd conquered, interior design. So it's now time to move into deeper waters, right? So yes, that's
so salient. You said it's one thing to know when to start a business. It's one thing to know when to pivot. I think that's very important going forward, that we know when we've outlived a certain cycle or business cycle. I
Yes.
think that's very interesting. Thank you very much for that. So you knew when to pivot, and since then,
How has it been?
how has it been?
So, I mean, we're still in that transition
Okay.
season. I mean, this was in 2021. Then 2022, so we actually had to restructure the business completely. We had to let go of some staff. We had to get new staff. We had to change everything, branding, almost everything, literally. Because now, yes, we're going into real estate properly. We're going into proper development. And, I knew that who we're going to be serving are kings. So if we're going to be serving kings, there's a certain way we had to look to attract kings.
Yes.
So it made us, we had to go through a series of training for the team, right?
Wow.
Just so that everybody is in that mind space of, okay, this is who we are now. This is who we're going to be serving going forward. And this is how we must be to serve them, right? So we're still in that, in that season of transition. And so we've not exactly started a proper development project yet, but we know that this is where we're going. So we're just, now it's say prepare your house for, so we're just in that place of preparation. But we've done, like, I would say that as of now, we've done about 80% of that preparation, in expectation of, the property development projects coming.
This is amazing. Thank you very much. A couple of questions come to mind. You said you had to let go of some staff. How was that? I know that changing is very difficult. How did you determine which staff to go? Who stayed? These guys had been with you for many years. It must have been tough.
It was tough, yes, it was tough. But we had staff who, like I said, the vision I saw was, yes, these towers, and I knew that it was kings we were going to serve going forward. So it was so easy for me to pinpoint who in the team wasn't not even performing. They were performing, but who in the, how, case in point, how when Joseph was going to go to the palace first time, he was coming from prison, but he knew that he had to go and clean up, exactly, before he presented himself to the king, right? So it wasn't about whether you were performing or not. It's about, can we present you to the king? Do you understand?
Wow.
So that was one major criteria. So of course we had some people who were really doing their own work well, but we needed a higher standard. We needed you to be doing your own work well, but to also be presentable to kings. Because if you also, I'm so sorry I'm going to scriptures, but that's what comes to my mind.
That's your frame of reference.
Yes, because if you remember when Babylonians captured the Israelites, right? They specifically said they want, the king specifically said he wants people who are smart, who are good looking, who can grasp things fast.
Yes.
They had those criteria. The king had those criteria for the kind of people they wanted to, teach the ways of the Chaldeans, right? So that's the same way. Like you have to do your work, but you also have to be, because there's a way that you come before kings, and just because they don't like how you look, they don't want to work with you.
That's true. You're right.
Or just because there's just something. It's not like you're not doing the work well, but there's just something that they just don't feel. They don't just connect. They don't do business with you.
I've seen people lose contracts just because of who went to present.
Exactly. That's it. That's it.
That must have been a tough decision. So I want to go back a little before transitioning. You mentioned you transitioned in 2021. How was COVID for you?
So interestingly, COVID was really good for us because most people were home.
Wow.
Most people realized that my house is not fine again. Or now we need to do home office because everybody was working from home, So we had a handful of projects from people, want to do this home office or want to remodel. We just realized that our house is not fine enough, all those. So we were kind of busy during COVID. So it didn't really affect us.
So COVID was good for you.
Yes, it was.
So this point I'm about to make is very important from what she said. I'm drawing this point because COVID was tough for many people.
I know.
But there were people who were having hand over leg, hand over head of money, they had a lot of money coming in for them. So there is always money flowing in a certain direction. You just need to position yourself.
Sure.
I think that's incredible.
Sure.
What has been the most memorable of your career in 528? Looking back, so 2 memories. One that you relish the most. I say, oh, I would love to relive this moment. I know the future is better than the past. But what has been your most memorable moment that you really love? And what is that moment that you never want to go back to? You don't even want to hear about it. You run away from. So let's start with the moment you don't want to go back to.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that. So looking back, I see life with no regrets. So everything, I've come to really understand that everything that I go through, whether good or bad, is always for a greater purpose. So one of the toughest season in the life of my business will be in 2022.
Okay.
Right. So we're staying in, an Okwebi, our office was at Okwebi in Ikeja, right? And the office had gotten small for the team. The team had overgrown the office, so we're looking for a bigger space. Anyway, long and short, we're looking for a bigger space somewhere around Ikeja, Okwebi, right? But eventually, I had an instruction to move the office to Ikoyi.
Wow.
So we finally get this place in Ikoyi.
Instruction from who?
Instruction from God.
Okay.
So I finally get this office in Ikoyi, right on Awolowo Road.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember, and the amount we got it for was crazy. Like, I don't even like saying it because people don't believe that,
Awolowo Road.
Right on Awolowo Road, not off Awolowo Road, right on the seventh floor story building, and we are right on the 7th floor at
the penthouse.
Yeah, so
and you got it for a steal?
For a big steal.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so we moved, and I remember that it felt like as soon as we made payment for that space, it felt like all the wells of the business just shut. I don't know what other term to use, but I'm sure like
income.
Exactly, nothing was coming in. And we had projects running. We had projects we needed to complete. We had staff we needed to pay. So I remember that was the very first time ever that I owe salaries for 3 months. I couldn't pay my staff salaries for 3 months. And I still had to show up as a boss, telling them that they are doing nonsense. And why have they not done this? Why have they not done that? Why have I not seen the reports? You know how that felt? Like, I'm owing you money, but I still had to show up to be the boss. It was really tough because I'm like, but God, I heard you. Left to me, we're good with finding we found a place in GRA, but I just knew that it wasn't GRA we were supposed to go to. I knew that I'm like, God, I heard you. You should have said that we should move to Ikoyi. So why is it this stuff? And I remember that God kept one of the scriptures that God kept putting in my heart at that time was, after Jesus fed the 5,000. And he told the disciples to take the boat and go to the other side while he went to the mountain to pray. He says as they were going to the other side, they encountered a fierce storm. So I felt like we were moving from Okwebi to Ikoyi to the other side, and we were experiencing a fierce storm. Right? That's why I said that I really don't regret, because what that did to us was, one, it made us stronger as a team. People could have left. Actually, 2 people left, right? But that's like how many percent of a whole I have, but the others who stayed, they stayed not just because of the salary they were earning. They stayed because of the value that the company is to them, right? And they stayed because they knew that we were building something that was beyond us. So it wasn't just about, we're just here to design spaces and make money and go. There was a higher vision that we were collectively building together. So that made the team very strong, very formidable, so that even in the lowest time, these people remained loyal, So yes, that was one of my toughest season as a business owner, just having to show up as a leader and a boss and encourage and inspire the team, even while I did not. So I felt like 2022 was our own COVID because
Okay, that was when you moved.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm sure you compensated them.
Oh yes, definitely. Because I'm so grateful to have the kind of people that I have built the organization with me. Because it's not easy for people to stay when you've not paid them salary for months, right? Not. So I know. Yes. So that would be my toughest
time. Let's go to the most memorable
time. I think that will be when we had our first project that was over 100 million.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the feeling that we had crossed this,
That barrier.
like, wow, like we did this, we've crossed this level. I think that was like the time, like, oh wow, yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to find out, what model do you run? So do customers pay 100%? Are there times where is cash flow really good? Or are there times where you have to take a loan?
No,
What are your
yeah.
ideas on taking a loan? Some people think there's stigma, in taking a loan. Well, some untrained mind, or maybe they've gotten their fingers burnt in times past. So run us through your model. How do
I
you?
love it. I remember when I started. Remember I said I started with 2 projects,
Yeah.
first 2 projects, and the clients paid upfront. So they usually at that time we're just doing 70% upfront, but
Okay.
now we do 90% upfront.
Oh, sorry. Why did you
Did you
change that?
change? Because our design is capital intensive. We
Oh,
need
yeah.
to buy the things, and because of current inflation rates, you
Yeah.
can pay for something. The clients might have paid for something
Yeah.
in March, and by April the price has doubled.
I'm
So it's
telling
better
you.
for us to
Oh,
just have
my.
the money, pay it down. Because why we even changed was we had an experience, which is, in fact, maybe that's my second worst experience. So we had this major project. It was for a microfinance bank. We're doing 5 floors,
Wow.
right? And they awarded us the contract in 2020, but we did not start the project until 2021, and we did not go back to change
Negotiate.
exactly
Yeah.
negotiate. So it was so bad that and the microfinance bank, they were anyway. It's business. It's
Yeah.
lesson. It's a lesson that we learn, because we could have. I didn't get a financial advisor to help to think about, figure out the numbers and all of that, right? Anyway, so it was a huge loss, because they paid the contract they gave us in 2020 was this amount,
God.
and that was the amount they stuck to pay, right? And we didn't start the project until 2021, and by that time, rates of things had already gone high. So it was a whole lot. I mean, it was a whole lot. That's the project. It was a major project, and we made a major loss on that project. So that's
why you
that
stuck to
informed.
90.
Yes,
Yeah.
that informed us to like 90%.
So going back to your model.
Yes, so our model, really, when we started, we were doing 70, and it was okay initially, because you could pay some artisans 80%, and then when the client pays back,
you
pays
pay
balance,
everything.
we'll pay the balance. But as we kept going, we kept having several projects, we kept handling several projects, simultaneously, and then the team started growing. We had to pay salaries, we had to pay rent, so it wasn't enough to just, we have this project, the inflow from the project
Yeah.
wasn't enough to cover the operating cost,
Yeah.
So yes, at some point we are taking loans. In fact, there was a particular time our bank called us that we were eligible for a loan, and we took the loan.
Yeah.
We took it, So yes, I mean, we've taken loans even from friends and family, right? We've taken loans from bank, but the important thing is, I've learned that you don't need to take a loan for a particular reason. So if it's a loan that, we want to expand the business, this is why we need the loan. Not that we're just taking a loan because the loan is, even when the bank came, when bank came calling that, we are eligible, I had to really sit to the accountant, do we really need this loan?
Yeah.
What do we really need to do that we need, and how are we going to pay back in so amount of months,
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, I believe in using other people's money to further your agenda, as long as you're not using it for, people
For
take
lifestyle.
loans exactly to boost their lifestyle or do whatever unnecessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's peek into the future. What is the future for Five? So before we go into the future, we noticed that, you were the chief creative officer,
Creative
director, and it was all over the news.
I love it.
It was all over the news that there was a new creative director, and you're assuming the role of just the CEO. Why?
I love how you just said why.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
why?
in Nigeria, it's not common for people to relinquish
I know.
like that. So there must be something you've seen. There must be something higher than you. Please.
Yeah, I love it so much, because when we look at global businesses, case in point, let's say Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg might be the founder of Facebook or Meta,
Yeah.
right? But he definitely has other people who are not his family handling main C-suite roles, right? So, and I know that, like I said, we're going to still be in New York and Dubai, right? I know that for us to go global, we had to break that African mentality of, because I'm the founder of the business, I must be the one in charge of doing everything or making the major decisions. And, you know, interestingly, the person who is now the creative director, she had just been with us for barely 2 years. But when she came in with such an ownership mentality, an ownership mindset, that she started handling things as such. She started asking me questions about the business, not just about her role. And I could see that this person was, she literally almost, you know how we say in Nigerian parlance, like, carry the business on her head. You know, so I'm like, wow, like, someone can be like this and be so invested in another person's business. And of course, because she is an architect, she studied architecture for 6 years, did a master's in architecture. So she has more experience when it comes to that. I'm an accountant who is just doing the business of it, of interior design. So, being able to recognize that this person, first of all, knows more than me. And I think that's also where a lot of African founders have an issue. They don't like to employ people who know more than them. Like, I feel like it's an ego thing, right? But your business won't scale and grow globally if you're the one who knows everything. If only you are the best head in your organization. So being able to recognize that and allow people to express themselves freely, has really helped me in scaling the business, right? So I remember when she came and, she had all this interest, and she had worked in about 3 other interior design businesses. So she brought her experiences from those businesses, and she started changing things. I literally let her change because I could see the value in what she was doing, so I allowed her to handle. So I knew that, this was 2023, April, that, I knew that, okay, this person had to take on this role as a creative director while I, sit as a CEO, not just because of the name tag CEO, but so that I can start to think more strategically, about taking the business forward rather than being involved with just operations and what's going on.
This is so beautiful, and it shows where you are going in the future. That's why that's why I retracted a bit to ask about why you relinquished the role. So going global, you're already thinking like global organization that you already are in your mind. And there's something called a thermostat. For example, you have your financial thermostat. In your business, it has a thermostat. I learned it from one of these channels on YouTube. So let's take financial thermostat, for example. Your business may have the capacity to do 1 billion, but if you have the vision that you're going to do 1 billion and you constantly put things in place
for that.
to get that billion, eventually you may be at 300 million. But eventually, your business rises to hit what your system can do. So what I'm seeing now is that you've put some things in place. And from the book Atomic Habits, it says you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
So good.
So I love the fact that you're putting systems in place in your quest for being a global CEO, a global business. So what does the future hold for 528?
I love it. So let me start with saying, in terms of the property development, aspect, I really see that 528 towers, and it's not just going to be in Lagos. I believe that it's going to be in Lagos, it's going to be in Abuja, it's also going to be in New York and Dubai. So it's 5 towers situated in the same location of 28 floors each, and that's a mega project because guess what? The person who is currently called the guru of real estate in Nigeria, I'm sure you know who he is, right? He's currently on a project, is 1 tower of 28 floors. And I remember being at a meeting where he was introducing this project, and I'm like, literally, what are the odds? Why is he doing? He could have said 25 floors or 20 floors. Why is it 28 floors? And he's doing just 1. So if he's doing just 1, and me, I have this grand vision of doing 5. That's a lot of capacity building, because you need to become the person who can handle, you know, such a big vision. So in terms of that's where I see that, not just in Lagos, like I said, in those spaces. And then, yeah, in terms of where we play, you know, it's always been ingrained in my mind that because Dubai, because I feel like I know that Dubai is the hub of property development and design in the world. So we must make a statement right there, right? So Dubai, and then New York, because I just love New York City. I mean, like, New York is like, if you're going, I mean, that's where we have all the Fortune 500 companies, you know, all of that. So yes.
Silicon Valley
like,
and
do
New
you
York,
understand? So yes, so
amazing.
We must be
I saw that your team did something one time. You went to one of the most expensive places in Lagos. And you spent some time there. And you call it vision something.
Yes,
Please take us through that journey.
I love that, because I needed, you know, it was part of the process of bringing the team up to speed to who we are and who we want to serve. So we went to, it took some members of the team to Eco Atlantic to price land. And to see land, right? So at the time we went, it's not like we had the money to buy the land or anything, but I needed them to go there to see. There's something about spying the land. I also needed to gauge what their responses to that will be. You know, just like the spies, the 12 spies, 10 went and said, oh, we are like grasshoppers. 2 came back and said, oh, we can take down this territory. So I needed to gauge whether I have grasshoppers in my team or giants, because it's important for me, because it's one thing to have a big vision. It's another thing to, because one man cannot fulfill the big vision nobody can fulfill a big vision by them. Nobody can, even if it's a small vision. You can't do anything worthy or weighty by yourself. You need people. I need to be sure that you have the right people. So it's important for me at every point in time to know that I have the right people, not just yes men who will do anything I say or who are just here for the salary. I don't need you to be just here for the salary. I need you to buy into the vision and be sold into the vision, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, even what I tell the team is, even these 528 towers, it's not just that we'll build the towers and sell out the apartments to people. You yourself, you should be able to buy or own an apartment that's the way I need my team to be thinking. Because if they are thinking on that same wavelength, we will be churning out great things, you know, on the same level. So yes,
that's what the future holds. That is amazing, and that's very inspiring. I hope it inspires others as it inspires me. What would you like to be remembered for? You know, you do, before what you like to remember for, you do a number of things, leadership training, all these other things. And you're balanced, you're a mom.
Yep, mom of 3.
Mom of 3! 3! You know, how do you, let me first ask that before your legacy.
How do I balance it?
How do you balance it? How many other things do you do?
I love it.
How do you balance it?
How many other things do I do? Yes, I'm a mom. I'm a wife of 1 husband.
Mom of 3, wife of 1. Okay.
I've authored 6 books.
6 books?
Yes. I train entrepreneurs on how to do business the Kingdom way through a platform called the Recalibrate Academy.
Recalibrate Academy.
I inspire young women to live their best life, aka live their abundant life, you know. So yes, those are some of the things that I do. But one major thing I would like to be remembered for.
How do you
balance
it?
Okay, so honestly, this question, when people ask me how do I balance it, I honestly don't feel like I'm trying to balance anything. Everything just flows out of who I am. It flows out of the source that is in me. You know how, you know, that scripture says, out of my belly will flow rivers of living water. So that's it. That's the expression. Like, out of me is flowing rivers, because I'm connected to the one who is the source of the river. So it just flows. So it's not like I'm not trying to juggle things and say, oh, I have to, you know, be here for my business. I have to take care of my children. I have to do this. No, it's just an outflow of who is inside of me. So I'm not trying to balance it. I'm just flowing. So there are seasons where I sense that, okay, I need to give myself fully to my business in this season. I pour myself into my business. There are seasons where, oh, I need to be here for my children. I need to pour into my family. So it just flows. It's just understanding, you know, where the wind is flowing in whatever season I am. I think one major thing, you know, is really understanding seasons, times and seasons. So you know that in this particular season, you know, to build my family, because there's a season coming where I'll need to focus on something. But because of the input I've poured into my family, it makes up for the seasons where I'm not able to show up for them the way I normally would be. So it's just understanding that flow.
Yeah. So the question now. What do you want to be remembered for?
That's a very interesting question. I think one major thing I would like to be remembered for is that I helped people live their best lives. When I look at the trajectory of my life or my journey so far, I remember when I finished school, I didn't say this, but that one of the things because of Tara, I also wanted to become a makeup artist.
Yeah.
But when I look, and I actually became a makeup artist, and I started,
You did?
Yes, I did. I actually set up a makeup business. I had brides, I did trainings,
Wow.
And, that transformation, seeing people doing up their face, seeing how they were before, and how they were after I did their makeup, and how that just brings up joy and happiness in their face, and then moving from designing faces to designing spaces, taking a space, from ugly and rugged to beautiful, from empty to, amazing, and then taking that into real people's lives, like seeing their life hopeless, and then helping them to become this edifice, that they have. I feel like that's really the essence of life, that we can help people who may not have that foresight to see what can be done through their own life, and showing them that it doesn't matter where you're from or who you are now, you can become this amazing person. And even in my own personal life, who would have imagined that this girl born out of wedlock, who her mom tried to abort 3 times, but did not abort, yes, but did not abort, is this person sitting here right in front of Mr. Jex Africa having this interview, so it's just that, I really would like to, what would I like to be remembered for is that, people were inspired by my own life, by my own journey, and I also helped them, to bring beauty out of the ashes of their own life.
That's so beautiful. Who told you this story about
my mom?
Your mom told you?
Yes, she did.
Did it ever affect you growing up?
Yeah, it did. The day she told me the story, guess what I did? I went to my album. All my pictures of my dad that I had, I tore them. So I don't have any picture. I tore them like into pieces and trashed them because I was so upset with my dad. Like, so you did not want me. Like, instead of me to be upset with the mom that, but... Was
he the one that told her to?
No, I can't even remember why she told me, but maybe she felt she needed to tell me. This was when I think I was in GS2 when she shared this story. So I was about 11, 12, when she shared this story with me, and I don't know why she did.
At that time, had you been seeing your dad?
Oh yes, he was in my life. I grew up with his parents. I lived with my paternal grandparents, right? But he was in my life like I was not in my life. Like I was just paying my school fees, and I was also in that season where I'd grown up always wanting to like have a real relationship with him. Like I would go to school and see people with their. My dad never took me to school. Like he never. It's almost just to make sure that my school fees is paid. So I yearned for that relationship. It was until I was in SS3 that relationship started. Yes. So my dad, somehow, I don't know what happened, but my dad now started to, have conversations with me. Now started to really care about me, and he really started to really wanted to be involved in my life. And, it was an amazing season for me because I remember then he would always want to tell me stuff first before he tells anybody else.
Wow.
We became that close. And then all of a sudden, so this was me in my SS3. Then I go into Covenant University in 100 level, and I remember I had all A's in my first semester result.
5 points.
It was 4.59 or 4.58, something like that. And my dad said if I do that in my 200 level, I'll get my first car. I was going to be 17 in my 200 level. So the thought of having my first car at age 17, like really I was in library every day. But guess what? My dad passes. Right, my first semester of 200 level.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Did that deter you in any way?
Well, I was not interested in the first class anymore, so I Of course. In fact, it was December. We're going to have exams in January. I remember I didn't even bother reading for the exams,
Oh my.
But yes, that was it. One of the toughest blows of my life. That was the
Yeah.
first tough blow of, okay, now you are now in life. Welcome to the school of hard knocks.
And was it the one footing the bill?
Oh yes, I was the one who was paying my school fees. So I was paying everything. I remember then, I just called, Dad, we need to buy textbook. You send money. We need to buy this. So, because he wanted to build a relationship with me as well. So it was anything I say was like my.
Did you ever
ATM.
ask him why he wanted to?
I never did actually. I never did. I was just excited and happy that finally, we now have this relationship.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And your mom, relationship with your mom?
My relationship with my mom she had always been there all my life, even though I didn't grow up with her, but she kept, she always comes to see me. I'll go and spend most of my holidays with her. So we're pretty close. Even when I say pretty close, we're close but not so close, because I remember that, when I was in school in Covenant University, and I'll come home and she started teaching me how to cook. I didn't like cooking. Even up to now, I don't like cooking because of how my mom taught me how to cook. Like, everything. Any small thing, I use the omorogun. That's the wooden spatula to give me a barrize.
Oh my.
Like, is it by must I? Is that you must turn eba this way? What if I turn it that way? What will happen?
So the way you teach people is just as important as what is being taught.
Literally.
Wow. And you're still this stable. I can say that because I know you a bit. You're still this stable. What would you say is responsible for the woman you've become?
When people ask me this question, my only answer really is God. I feel like, so when people ask me, so Funto, who is your mentor? Who has mentored you? Honestly, looking back at my life, I never really had a mentor. But I can tell you specifically at different points in my life where I heard God clearly, even though I didn't know that it was him. I remember it was in secondary school. I remember when I was in GS2 or 3, I heard the Holy Spirit clearly tell me, if you have sex before marriage, you'll lose your destiny. Nobody had to preach to me not to have sex before. I just knew that if I have sex before marriage, my destiny is gone. So that kept me. It kept me going, right? And I can say there are times when, armed robbers invaded the house where my grandparents' house were, and for some reason I was not around. Wow. Or my mom's house, when I was living in my mom's house, armed robbers came, they literally beat my mom. She was in hospital for days, but I was not around. So I can see like God's hand keeping me, protecting me, leading me, like guiding me, like telling me, do this, don't do this, go here, right? And I feel like that is what has really kept me stable, because when I look at my life, really, if anybody has gone through what I've gone through, there's a way you should turn out, there's a way that is expected of you to, and you get, like, there's a way you should be. But I just see God's hand in my life, really, and the right friends, the right people around me.
Amazing. So I'd like to ask, I know that you do some mentorship for some ladies, and that was born out of your need to help others, right? Have you seen anybody that was almost irredeemable?
Well, I wouldn't say that almost irredeemable, because there's really nobody, there's really no ash that God cannot turn to beauty, right?
Because I know you're into leadership.
Yes.
So that's why I'm also asking this question. There's some people that I've seen, I'm like, oh, thank God I'm not the one dealing. Okay.
I think, yes, I get what you're saying, because I've come across, I think one major thing that will make someone irredeemable is their unwillingness to be open. People who I have seen who, I would classify as unredeemable are people who they already have a fixed and rigid mindset to life. And they are not willing to let go. So there's that stronghold that is holding them back. They don't want to take in new information that would help them be better, right? So I think when it comes to redeemable, people who cannot be redeemed are people who don't want to open up to new information or new ideas or new, principles that would help them be better.
All right. So if there's somebody who wants to go into property development and design, who wants to start as an interior decorator, what will you advise them? How would you say they should go about it now? Because times have changed. So how will you?
times have changed, but principles are still the same.
Okay.
The principle of diligence.
Quotable quote.
I love it. Oshe, times have changed, but principles are still the same. Funto Ibuoye 2024. Anyway, but yes, I mean, you still need to put in the work. You still need to give yourself diligently. I find that today people want to become overnight successes, but that overnight takes years, right? It takes years in the making. It takes years to build anything that will last, right? You can build a hut in 2 days, but if you're going to build an edifice, it's going to take years, right? So put in the work. If what you're building is an edifice, if you really want to build an edifice, something that will last and not just something that will last, but something that would outlast you or outlive you, you have to really build deep. You really have to roll your sleeves and build deep, and also be particular about the people you're building with. I'm very particular about people because, yes, I mean, I'm really grateful for my team. And like I said earlier, I don't believe that you can build anything great without people. So you need people, and you need to invest in people, right? You need to be that person who really pours a lot into people because, I mean, and it's sometimes when you're investing in people, it's almost like a risk. I mean, it's almost like a risk.
Some may up and go.
Exactly. I mean, this year we actually have a budget to send some of our team outside Nigeria for trainings and all of that because I need them to be exposed. If we say we're going to be in Dubai, I need you to go to Dubai to see how Dubai is, right? So we already have provisions for that. If after we take them to Dubai and they come back and resign, what are we going to do?
Wow.
But you need to be able to invest that much, take that risk. There's this quote, it's better to train your staff and they leave than to not train them and they stay.
Yes.
Yes, so
you don't want that. So anybody starting should pour yourself into the business.
Work. Yeah.
Pour yourself into your staff, train them, expose the staff. And I think from all you said, I also picked vision.
Yes.
Having that vision. So you spend time to maybe lodge somewhere, go to where you want to be, soak that moment in, animate the vision, in their minds. From what you also said, don't let your external circumstances dictate who you become.
Yes.
Because what you've been through and who you are worlds apart. You're meant to be bitter.
Really?
If this was a Nollywood movie, you probably be bitter, insecure. But you're so secure, you're bold, beautiful.
Thank you.
And from what you also said is train.
Yes.
Build a system. You stepping up from being the chief.
Creative director.
Come again?
The creative
director to being the CEO and letting other people make those decisions. I think I've taken a lot from this conversation. I promised that it was going to be very insightful, and I'm glad that it is. So you're going to speak to Africans now.
Okay.
And you're going to give them your parting shot. Some of the things, some of the principles that you've applied in your life that has made you, who you are. And that's why you're Mr. Jegs Africa.
I love it.
Right? So tell us those things that you've been yearning for these Africans to hear, because it's going to...
I love it.
Africans will see this, and we hope that one day they see you and say, oh, I saw this on Mr. Jegs Africa, and it really sparked something in me that caused a ripple effect, and here I am today.
I love it.
So
good. So hello, Africa, and hello, Africans.
Yeah.
So I think that one major thing that I would say, the first thing that I would say is a quote by Fela Dorotere. It says, don't let your background be the reason why your back is on the ground. So it doesn't matter where you're coming from. But it doesn't matter what your story is. It doesn't matter, I always say it doesn't matter how you were born, whether you were born outside wedlock, inside wedlock, underneath wedlock, wherever. As long as you were born, you have a big purpose. You have a huge purpose. And don't let the circumstances concerning your birth or concerning your, history or your background keep you from achieving that great purpose you were sent here to achieve. And the second thing, and the final thing will be really put your all in whatever it is you're doing. put your heart into whatever it is you're doing. What I did not mention in this interview was, while I was working as an accountant, I wrote my first book. And I poured my all into my first book. People still see that book today and ask me if I did it in Nigeria. I remember it was in 2012, it cost me 1.2 million naira to publish it.
How many copies?
1,000 copies.
What? In 2012?
2012. It was that good. And it was that book that gave me my role at L'Oreal. Because the MD of L'Oreal at that time was speaking at an event that I was volunteering for, and I bought my book for sale. And he picked up a copy of the book and just flipped through it, and he asked who did this book. So someone came to call me. I went to meet him, and he gave me his card to come for a meeting on Monday. The event was on a Saturday. They said I should come for a meeting with him on Monday, and I go for the meeting with him. Next thing, he calls in the HR. That's how I had an interview. That's how I got a job because of my book. But it was so excellently done that, even the MD of L'Oreal could not resist it. So whatever is going to have, so I have a principle that whatever is going to have my name on it has to be so good, so excellently done that anywhere in the world, anybody will see it and, they will make reference that who did this, right? So, yeah. So those will be my two parting words to Africans.
Wow. Whatever is going to have my name on it must be so excellently done. I think that struck a chord. So she said, wherever you're from, however your background may be, should not determine your future. You determine your future. Number 2, whatever you do, pour your all into it. You wrote a book while working. That's amazing. I want to ask one question about being an author. So you've written 6 books. And counting. That means, hey, you'll have like 2 more in the works. Why is it just the ego of being I'm an author?
No.
And in 2012, you barely just finished NYSC.
In 2012.
What were you writing about? Why were you writing a book?
So I think it comes from that place of just wanting to help people know more or know better, because I believe that if people know better, they will do better. And I don't have to be great to help people. There are people who don't know half of what I know already, at what level of life I'm in. There are people who need the knowledge. So I remember an incident that happened. So we just finished school, when Covenant University, and my mom then used to go to MFM. So I went to MFM with her right after school. And I remember my first few times in the service, the youth church.
Yeah.
I just felt like I was not to say it in a, how would I put it? I'm saying it with all humility. Yeah. I just felt like I could not relate to the people in the class with me. Not because I went to Covenant University or anything, but because I felt like they were not thinking on the same level that I was thinking. What did I do? I remember it was a Word document. I went on my laptop, did an invitation on my Word document, and I invited the girls my age to come to the house, my mom's house that time, to have a meeting. The meeting was just going to be about me just pouring into them, sharing the little things that I knew. And guess what? I remember that I had about 12 young ladies come, and one of them came with their mom. By the time I was done, what did I talk about? Just things that I knew at that time about, life, relationships, all of that. I just felt like if they did not know, that means nobody taught them. So if I could just pour into them. The lady that came with her mom, I remember when we were done, her mom was in tears. She said if she knew half of the things that I was teaching them when she was our age, that she would have made better choices.
Wow.
So it's just from that place of, it doesn't matter how little I feel I know. In fact, when I was writing down my first book, then, this was in 2012, so imposter syndrome was not raining. But I felt, in fact...
It wasn't raining.
It wasn't raining. It's just now that I became a trend now. I felt so little. I remember having thoughts of, Tara has not written a book. Who am I to write a book? This was Tara that inspired me to want to be a makeup artist. I'm like, Tara has not written. Like, that thought kept coming into my heart. But I pushed past, those thoughts and still went ahead to do the book. And it's still blessed plenty, because Tara might not have written a book. I don't know why at that time. But the one that I know and I wrote, people were blessed by it, because there were people who had not even attained that level of knowledge yet.
Yeah. This is so beautiful. I'm inspired by you,
Thank
your
you
success,
for having me.
by your knowledge, by your audacity. I'm very inspired, and it speaks to the need for inspiration. Once it speaks to the need for inspiration, once you have a figure of hope, something that can spark inspiration in you, I think you can keep going. You mentioned Tara Durotoye, you mentioned Fela here. So there are quite a number of people that have inspired you all through your life. And before I wrap up, I'll just like you to give a shout out to all those who inspired you. If you can mention their names.
I love it.
People who have inspired you,
Okay, I'd like to shout out to, of course, Tara Durotoye. I think I've mentioned her name like 3 times in this interview. And her husband, actually, it was actually Tara and her husband. I remember being at a meeting where they both were speaking, and I just said to myself, if they can be a couple and I wasn't married yet, if they can be a couple like this, then I'm also going to be the highly successful wife of a highly successful man.
Amazing.
And that's really my my life now. And I also want to give a shout out to people who gave me their platforms. It was at Bankole Williams event that the MD of L'Oreal came to speak and met me. So thank you so much, Bankole Williams, Steve Harris, Wale Tejumade, and my biggest inspiration, Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There you have it, Africa. Thank you for staying with us all through this episode of CEOs Unscripted with Mr. Jex Africa and Funto Ibuoye in this particular session.
Thank you so much for having me.
See you in the next session.